Friends and family, thank you for joining me here at the American News Network with Chris Sanders. Did you enjoy your Labor Day? Well, there's a mayor out there, and he's trying to prevent Trump from coming in because it's so safe. They only had 8 people that were shot dead and 54 people that were shot, period, on this wonderful Labor Day weekend in the wonderful windy city of Chicago. Afghan, we had a major earthquake hit. At least 1,400 people are dead. This was only a magnitude 6. Heads up, California. We've got basically the McDermott fault zone and a supervolcano coming to life really recently here in the state of California. So I will be going over that, but we have several, just hundreds of earthquakes in the last month. If you look at it in kind of a speed up time-lapse frame, it looks pretty scary as far as what's happening. In other news, Rudy Giuliani took a hit in a car accident while helping a lady with domestic violence problems. And he's got a fractured vertebrae and leg. And on the good side of things, because he is a hero, President Trump gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So congratulations, Rudy Giuliani. At least something's going your way positive, and you deserve that for what you've done to New York, as well as Curtis Sliwa out there. Much luck to you out there in your run for mayor of New York City. Now, we have judges recently, and just a branch judge herself was able to slash Trump's tariffs. Now, what does that mean to you and I and the average American? Well, if some judge does that, what that means is that just one judge is more powerful than the executive branch. And in the Constitution, we have 3 equal branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial. So there's no way, feasibly, that a judge could have the same power in Trump. And as such, we have, obviously what's going on is the judicial branch is an abuse of power. And we also have the legislative branch that are showing clear evidences and signs of abuse of power is Congress and the Senate and the judicial branch. Totally have disregard for the opening preamble of the Constitution of the United States. And if they slash Trump's tariffs, well, we have to pick up the slack. We have to pay the taxes. And so Trump is geniusly putting the taxes on the other countries. And this, in turn, will save American economy, make it where we can compete again. Because if not, we're going to have to eat the money. And it's like, I don't know if you live, like I live in Texas as well and have ranches in South Dakota and Oklahoma and friends in Florida, but it's either DeSantis or Abbott who's going to be first. But being a constitutionalist, I believe that there's no taxation without representation. And if the government let in 30 million illegal aliens, well, where is the peace and tranquility and the general welfare? And if you're not following the Constitution, well, you don't deserve 1 red cent of tax money because you're not doing your job, nor are you following the Constitution of the United States of America. In other news, I'm going to let you know Chase Bank is holding on to $10 trillion. And I can understand how this is happening. Even I'm dealing with the governments of Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, because Drill Baby Drill is basically a company that is supplying them with oil and gas. And Israel has been surrounded right now. And so they control the banking industry, and people like Jamie Dimon of Chase are holding on and doing what's called kiting the money, like you're flying a kite. And so they're making the interest off of $10 trillion. Now, I know there's a major investor, one of our F-35 geniuses, and they've spent a lot of cash with a lot of technology, and they wanted to stimulate Trump's infrastructure. So they came to us because we have quite a big part in Trump's infrastructure. And it's wild when I see literally Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, and even DOD being held back by, in my opinion, Israeli-controlled banks and bankers like Jamie Dimon of Chase. So we'll get to the bottom of that, but our only answer, in my opinion, is for me to form an alliance. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to team up with Brock Pierce. We're going to meet up with the sovereign nation chiefs. And we're going to be setting up shop and setting up bank. in sovereign nations within the United States, because instead of going to Dubai, instead of going to Saudi, doesn't work for Colonel Sanders. I'd rather get my finger-licking good chicken right here at home. What about you? Well, I think it's much easier to drive to the state of South Dakota or Wyoming or some part in that good Sioux Lakota nation. But only the Sioux taught General Custer their lesson. Then also down in New Mexico to Colorado, we have the Pueblo Indian Nation with Chief Two Feathers. Now, I went to New Mexico Military Institute back in the day, very famous 11 Bravo school. And I will tell you, even back in my days, it was less than 100 years. We didn't defeat the Mescalero Apaches, and we're the last mounted cavalry outfit out there. So we have basically a couple sovereign nations existing within our own country that are very much so older than even the history of the United States. When you go up to Idaho and take the Lewis and Clark Trail, you realize that the Chinese truly landed in America in 1421 with 100 ships, and even Lewis and Clark were guided by the Indians and the Chinese to the west coast from Idaho on. And that's why in South Dakota and Deadwood, you see an alliance between great Americans such as, Mr. Wu, who is also working with Seth Bullock. And they knew Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok, but there were Chinese and Jewish Americans right there, and cowboys from inception. And I just wanted you to know that, because we're looking at an interesting return of cast of characters, because we're going to have the Israelis from Israel, but they're not quite the same. They're a little bit different this time. And the same Chinese, and they're not getting along, not like they did in Deadwood, because I think they just learned how to be Americans here. But something's coming around the corner. We're going to talk about that, but we have a way in which what we need to do is have our crypto geniuses. Now, I heard Trump, he was calling Brock Pierce his crypto king messiah. And I'm going to try to make it to where he runs for governor of California, because I've seen the man work, and he's able to create literally billions of dollars just by being effective in combining crypto with effective energy. And I've seen this happen in the Gulf, and if he can turn California around, I think it's something California needs. We need to have Elon Musk step up to the plate in the state of Texas, because Tesla is here in the state of Texas, so is SpaceX. We need you, Elon Musk, to step up to the plate in Texas to run for governor. I want Jesse Ventura to come back, because up north it's looking a little bit too dark, and we need some people that understand the light. And these are just things that I'm going to say as this 3-eye atlas is coming in. It's going to be here for 66 some odd more days. It's bigger in size than we thought, went from 7 miles to 28 miles. It has a nickel coating. It looks like it's kind of man-made, so scientists say. Is it something we have to worry about? No, but it's very interesting as it's cruising 130,000 miles per hour throughout the galaxy. Now, I want you to know that recently we had a strike, and the strike was basically a covert strike, and Israel kind of did another good mission. They spied on the Houthis, and they took out all members of their cabinet and the prime minister. So, of course, I would think that they would be under a disarray. However, the military is intact, and today they've had 2 responses in Tel Aviv, and Ben Gurion has been shut down, and the IDF headquarters has been bombed today. Also, word is out on the street that the IDF general opposes Benjamin Netanyahu and his plans for Gaza and the property grab. So there again we have, and I want you to see the alliance behind me. It's BRICS, it's Xi Jinping, it's Vladimir Putin with Modi. And they want to crush the US dollar. Our only hope is President Trump's tariffs combined with reinstating the petrodollar. And that's why Drill Baby Drill, me being the president of Drill Baby Drill, we're here. And I've got to put so many people to work. And I want you to know our chunk that's being withheld is $3.3 billion with John. I might even call him here in a bit just so that you can hear this. But we're being held back. Now, on other news, we had a big coronal mass ejection hit us from space yesterday. And is that contributing to a lot of the magma flow just because we're getting a lot of solar blasts? Well, McDermott supervolcano, 75 miles from the epicenter of the old times, coming back to life. And we're seeing that in Nevada, California. Now, in the meantime, what's new about this? Well, I'll tell you what's new. These are the people that really have a problem with Israel. They're saying it up and down. They say Israel is their number one enemy, and the United States, we're their enemy because we're following Benjamin Netanyahu. And I wanted America to know that. And it's not typical Jews that they have a problem with, Orthodox Jews. It is strictly the Polish, Ashkenazi Jews like Zelensky and Netanyahu or Malkowitz, and they've all changed their names, but it's those guys they have a problem with in the endless wars that we're fighting, trailing them. And I want America to know that. Even with North Korea, he said if America just stops following Israel, we don't have a problem tomorrow. Now, I will say on behalf of Japan and South Korea and Taiwan and the safety of Asians and Asian Americans and our families, we would prefer that you back up the alliance that you promised since General MacArthur in World War II. Do not forget your responsibilities to Japan and South Korea and the alliances that you've had through blood, sweat, and tears, and my grandparents and everybody else's that created this country. Take over the Panama Canal. 38,000 of us died from mosquitoes when we built it in days before there was an automobile, thanks to the genius of Teddy Roosevelt, then taken out by the retardism of a peanut farmer named Jimmy Carter. Now, I'm going to do this bank in South Dakota. I've already talked to the chiefs. Brock Pierce and I, the crypto king, we're going to turn this around and we're going to make stuff happen. I want to bring our state into the new frontier of crypto in South Dakota, from Texas to Oklahoma and data centers up and through the Midwest. I think that we have a better solution for the United States. I want to remind everybody that the Bakken is a very powerful natural gas producer. And in the Bakken, in the states of Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota, we can produce a lot of energy for crypto, for data centers throughout the United States. That also with the Barnett Shale in North Texas, the Permian Basin, and the Eagle Ford Shale with the Western Gulf Basin. These are all things and areas that are our most advanced strategic locations where we can produce enough power for AI by converting natural gas into electricity. And in the San Joaquin Basin in California, the Southern California Gas Company and the gas company have announced, especially the president of the gas company has announced that he's fully behind needing a governor like Brock Pierce so that they can turn those natural gas wells into crypto, into stocks, and revive Silicon Valley into truly what it was. So hopefully that crypto king messiah might get out there and we might see a revolution, because right now California's falling off into the ocean of China, and communism is reaching its way in. So I don't need some pansy in there. I need somebody that's smart, and so do you. The states of Texas, the states of California, the states of Florida, and New York are the essential economy in the United States of America that we had to protect. Speaking of which, President Trump is going after one of our main henchmen, evil men in America, George Soros. And finally it was announced, and we're going after George Soros, the 96-year-old Hungarian villain that was kicked out of Hungary for being a sleazeball. He goes to the United Kingdom. He ruins a kingdom. He comes here and tries to do the same. President Trump, I pray that you're successful. I know when you're hiding for a while, that's just because you announced that you're going after George Soros, his Open Society Foundation, and they need to be cleaned out. They need to be seized, and we need to examine Alex Soros, who married Anthony Weiner's old woman, who is basically the assistant of Hillary Clinton. These are enemies of the state. These are people that give ICE agent locations away so that illegal aliens can run, or so that our ICE agents can be ambushed. Clearly, they're violating the Constitution, the general welfare, and the peace and tranquility within the United States. And on behalf of America and even the rest of the world, we humbly ask that you take your time and hurry up, sir, as you seize all of George Soros's assets in the media. And I'm speaking for everybody in America when I say MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, and basically NPR. They deserve a PBR, but don't give them a damn dollar. And that's because really their National Enquirer today, there's nothing that they say that is real. It's all part of the Khazarian mafia, the Jewish mafia from George Soros. Why do you think all of our money's going to the Ukraine, which is basically old Jewish Russia, or into Israel? And it's not necessarily Jewish Russia, it's Ashkenazi Russia. And it's those same Ashkenazis that moved from basically Germany, Poland into Ukraine, down into the area. Now, if you doubt it and the ethnicity, these are the descendants from the book of Esther when a group of 303 Jews, after the king Nebuchadnezzar released the slaves, instead of going back to the motherland, they actually migrated up into Russia and became Russian European with just a trace amount of 303 original relatives. And so they kept some traditions. A lot of people don't know that, but as far as is their language, Aramaic, or even considered to where you'd say, well, hey, you're being anti-Semitic? The answer is no, they're not Semitic people. The Palestinians are Semitic people, and people that speak ancient Aramaic or Arabic are Semitic people. Yahudi Shadamut Yadia Hamud. You understand? Yahudi Shadamut Med Yahudi? Because that is what the Palestinians are saying as an Aramaic people to the people that are starving them. Okay, now, we got a lot of interesting things that are going on, but right now, if we do not form a strong alliance, my MAGA party, we're looking at Gavin Newsom, so we need a billionaire candidate. And we need somebody that's been strong, not just, we do not need a politician. And so that's why I'm saying in Texas, I do see Elon Musk is the answer. We need a businessman, and we need to stimulate the Space Force correctly. In California, we're going to need Brock Pierce to do the same, and all these people are actually friends, including with Jesse Ventura. And I know they got plans up there in New York and stuff. Even Mayor Eric Adams is somebody that's in alliance with this team, because there are people that are just seeing the difference between what is right and what is wrong. Now, in other news, real quick, I want you to know in certain towns in the United States, what would you think if you knew that we're leaking radioactive gases and contaminations into your city at night? And in Ohio, that is the case, and radioactive gases are routinely released from a Cold War era plant in Ohio. And that's the Portsmouth Gaseous Diffusion Plant, PORTS, and the government documents verify radioactive gas from the core of a uranium enrichment cascade that was routinely released from the now closed government opened again plant near Piketon, Ohio. Okay, so this is something, and all the people that have worked there say, yeah, we released this stuff, and I just want you to know that this is kind of toxic stuff, and it is not good for America. So even our own government has made some decisions. You know, we want to talk about RFK, but there's other things that we could contain. As far as our main criminal in certain cities, I want you to know something. This mayor of Chicago needs to be arrested. Here we have a black woman, and she is putting him on the spot. I'm going to let you hear what she's got to say, but I want you to understand the word posterity here. He is denigrating black America. And you can't make a black American the same as an African American, because we have had different histories to evolve to the culture to be who we are. Furthermore, black Americans are hybrid Americans and about twice as smart as people from other countries, because we're a hybrid of mutts. And when this guy wants to give our money to foreigners versus our brothers and sisters, we all, united, have a problem with it. Don't think that America says, oh, we don't want the American black man to have $1. No, that is not the way we think. We want the black man that was born here, that is a citizen, to have every entitlement, and for these illegal aliens to have zero voting abilities, zero benefits, because we have enough people that are living in tents. If you want to educate a Chinese American or a Chinese guy from China, I say no. Educate a Chinese man from America. If you have to educate Africa and somebody from Africa, I say no. We have enough African Americans here. Same thing with Mexico and everywhere else. So if you want to pick a race, pick us. And what makes us even more, if you want to say DEI and diversified, Well, because even amongst the races that you pick here, let's say you pick a black person or a Hispanic or an Asian American, most likely they're going to be diversified in with another race and even be more rare. And so the whole system in what you tried to create is just so bonkersly backwards. That's why it's embraced by a bunch of snowflakes that are denigrating our country into just a pile of junk. Now, if you want to spot out the enemy, they got pink and blue hair, they're overweight, and they're tattooed in any race because that's what they represent. Just a disrespect of themselves, God, and country, and they got none. And so they like to chum up to guys like this that want to basically steal the rights from Americans and good Americans. And I want you to hear what Chicago and the citizens of Chicago have to say about, just about this creep and how bad he is for the people of, of the United States. Every one of these mayors needs to be fired and arrested for violating the supremacy clause of the United States, where in the opening preamble they're supposed to provide, peace and tranquility and general welfare, and we can't do that when we have a majority of illegal aliens in our country.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what
I want you to hear this.
You all stood up there and said you will not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that, on illegals. You campaign and double down that you would not raise property taxes.
I won't raise your property taxes.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what we asking now. Since you want to crash out, some of y'all say y'all willing to go to jail for it. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example of this Negro right here first. Please come here first. Because you know what? We're going to help you. We want a forensic.
Ma'am, I would ask that you.
We want a forensic.
Hold on a second. Stop her time. Stop her time. Just a second. Stop her time. Ma'am, I would ask that you, if you want to continue speaking, you have to make sure that your language is appropriate. Okay? All right. Okay, you can begin her time again.
You're going to spend our tax dollars to go back on what I read. You said to take Trump to court to protect these illegals. That's cool because we about to make all of y'all aldermen famous. Y'all think this house gonna ride? I think not. Look, Chicago will. We got plans.
This what's going to happen to you. You got Cash Patel and Pam Bundy that you're going to have to deal with sooner than later.
That's right. Then
it's going to be an audit. Next, it's going to be an investigation. Then it's going to be an indictment. Conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
Mr. Brandon Johnson, I'm up here. I am speaking right now. So I would love your undivided attention, please. I'll wait. So this just proves to you the lack of leadership that you show in this city. You can't even give me straight eye contact. Now, I'm going to let you know now, the people of Chicago, we're done with you. It is insane how we have been voting Democrat for over 60 plus years, and we've never seen a change from people like you, Lori Lightfoot, Robbie Manuel. It is insane. Chicago was 37% red. In 2020, it was only 15%. So we're waking up. So you can pretend that this isn't happening, but I know for a fact that you will not have that seat the next election.
You're so strong about protecting those aliens, but you won't do nothing for the U.S. citizens. I got a great way how we can what we can do with this budget. First, let's start with cutting off illegals, getting free everything. Free housing, free schooling, free food. Yeah, let's start with that. That'll save us a lot of money. What, $600 million? Let's start there. Then let's start with your salary. You are going down in history as the worst mayor in America. Let's start with cutting yours. You're making too much money. Let's start there. You Democrats, and you remember you told us to defund the police? Remember, you ran on there. Remember, you was to defund the police? Let's start with that. Let's defund the police detail that you have. And let's put the police back in our neighborhood, because we're not for defunding the police. Won't you just practice what you preach? Remove all the details. We saw you coming in today. You had all the police presence. So let's take some of that away.
All right. I was thinking that was definitely something that we needed to see. Thank you, people of Chicago, for standing up, because that's all we have. We're Americans. We're standing up for each other, and every race is being forgotten right now. And there are architects of this and these plans. And again, finally, President Trump is going after George Soros, born in 1930. He was kicked out of Hungary, Hungarian Jew. He went to the United Kingdom so poor, and his mission was to destroy that country, and he did. And now his mission is to destroy ours. Open society. All of these riots that we're seeing are being funded by this old piece of toast. The guy that looks like they cast him to be the evil character in The Empire Strikes Back, because that's exactly what he is. He's just an old, crusty turd. And they don't get any more stinky than that. So Trump, you really need to just have it out. And God bless you for getting to the bottom of that. But Soros, he is a Hungarian Jew. Don't compare him to Weinstein or Silverstein. Now, we'll get into Silverstein too, but as far as that, when you see this, there's a lot of interesting things. Now, I was going over the governor of Texas, and that would be Elon Musk. And right now, Elon's out there, and he's rushed to the United Kingdom, and he's telling everybody, grab yourself and pick up your nuts, because it's time to take your country back. Now, I'm glad he's doing that, because he's rallying the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, you know, they're not really known for everyday displays of patriotism lately, and that's because they've been whitewashed by, I think, the fact that there's so many Indians there from India. But I'm asking all of you guys to embrace your inner, you know, that person in you that after you've had about 4 or 5 Guinnesses gets a little crazy. Well, it's time for you to embrace that fella. Don't care if it's Scotch. In America, we might use bourbon or whiskey, but it's time for you something, because you have something on your plate and you need to clean house so that you're not just a beautiful memory. I trust all the Scotsmen up there. If there was a leader, it'd be my beautiful friend Paul Morgan. As we would just, I would say, let's get about 100 Harleys and unite everybody in Scotland and everybody from the north to go down south to have a big fiesta in the name of Great Britain. There you go. Now, in Ireland, I would say get behind Conor McGregor and act just as crazy as he is, because the time is now to defend everything that you believe in. So Elon Musk rallies to the United Kingdom to raise flags to protect and to protest the immigrants, because just like me, he believes we need to save our beautiful countries. I'd say, look, you know, we need to save Texas. There's a lot of races here. We're not being racist. We just want people that are here legally. You got to start on the right foot so that your second step is also on the right foot. If you come here and your first step is illegal as a felon, well, your second step's going to be illegal, your third step's going to be illegal, and everything that you stand for is illegal. Period. And you know it. So pack up your stuff, go back home, and come here legally so that everybody in America doesn't have a problem with you. And these are just facts, and I want you to know the certain types of facts that exist. And we've got to do that. So we have 7,000 troops being amassed in Iran. There was a little bit of war talk about us even putting boots in the ground. Don't know if we're going to do that, but immediate response from China. and from Russia is that there's an alliance, and they will be in an alliance against us as we do that, or if we do that. Simultaneously over there near Pakistan, they've got floods going on one side, and they have these horrific, like I said, earthquakes that are just going on. And it was only a 6 magnitude, but it's the building conditions. So we could say that it was a powerful earthquake, but really just a magnitude 6. And we have over 1,400 people that have died, as reported by Joe Biden's Taliban. And I'll say Joe Biden's because that was our land. We were protecting those people, and he committed treason. So did General Miley, General Austin, all of them, by aiding and abetting the enemy, giving them our gear. Also by our alliance with Netanyahu after the Lebanon pager explosion fiasco. Now Turkey has formed an alliance with Russia, thereby carte blanche, and I want you to know this, carte blanche giving all of our technology and F-16s directly to Putin, not destroyed, but from Turkey to Russia because of politics. And we've been selling Turkey our best stuff, and who's going to be next? Saudi Arabia. So we're going to be completely behind as Putin and Xi Jinping announce a Mach 26 missile to blow us to kingdom come. I am not kidding. And everybody's not talking about it. Now, I'm even going to show you the moment that Trump was poisoned and who he was poisoned by and the influence. Okay, but here we have, right here, we have an alliance between Xi Jinping and Putin. And we know that Modi and Russia are selling oil. They destabilized the petrodollar. And just because we're following fraud, just because we're following the military industrialization conflict, just because we're following the same people that killed Kennedy and the same people that blew up the Twin Towers in Building 7, and I'm talking about their very own CIA working with the Mossad as they use corporations like USAID in tandem with organizations and lobbyists like AIPAC so they can destroy America from the inside out. And that's exactly what they're doing. Starting with Watergate and their special prosecutor Hillary Rodham Clinton to take out Nixon for the same crimes that we've let Obama do and get away with. And I want you to know that. And he took it a lot further than that and then invented propaganda and dissuaded an election. And all of them have, as far as Adam Schiff and his relationship to George Soros and their family ties. When are these people going to get arrested? Ask the people of the United States of America. We need to start seeing senators, congressmen, and yes, evil billionaires such as George Soros lose everything, all the radio stations that they've apprehended and bought through USAID money to ensure the safety of our police and army and ICE agents, because the broadcasters on their station are giving out the coordinates and locations of our cops, our officers, and ICE agents. So on behalf of the safety of American officers, we must seize all of George Soros's assets immediately. Open Society Foundation, they hire the same criminals, the same deadbeats to protest, to spit on veterans. When is the madness going to stop? And it's not going to stop unless we do something about it, okay? And I'm just wanting you to know that. So this 3AI Atlas, now this is something that I want you to know. I'll talk about it briefly. You're hearing about this. This is the new comet coming in. Its tail was going basically the other direction. A city-sized mystery object just entered our solar system. This is going a good 130,000 miles per hour. It has an exoskeleton of nickel. The reason why that's hard is because for all of us scientists, we know that most asteroids have nickel and iron, and that nickel is the easiest to phase out in outer space, so there's no way there could be a nickel kind of alloy shield in a space field around this thing, when it should have iron, and the iron's been taken out. So that's why you're hearing a lot of scientists saying that this could be a man-made comet, and then as well as it doesn't have a tail of normal water vapor and trails, but yet has something that looks like a carbon stream, something as if it was being propelled by that. So these are just interesting observations. Is it coming close to us? No, it's actually going around the far side of the sun. But it's the third thing that we've noticed coming in, noticed by the Atlas Observatory. And it's going to be zooming around and it's cruising. And this is just a gift really for us to notice. Now the thing that was interesting to me and I'll bring up is that it has a high bit of radiation and magnetism. And could that affect our planet even from the far side? We don't know. But that is basically 3I/Atlas. It went from 7 miles wide to 28 miles wide and all exoskeleton nickel with no iron. And we see it now cruising 130,000 miles per hour with no water vapor. And it'll be cruising on, and we got it for about another 66 some odd days. This alliance, once again, that you're seeing here, it's a big one, and it's a real, it destroyed NATO. I want everybody to understand that Turkey was the second most powerful military force in NATO, and when they left, it was the crumbling of NATO. So don't think that there's the EU and NATO. That's just something that journalists say that don't know the truth. NATO is destroyed completely because Erdogan is gone. Erdogan's also then strategically blocked the Black Sea and also the Mediterranean in joint tandem forces with Putin so that Israel will not receive any food or energy or resources. After the Yemen attack, I think that we're going to see Saudi Arabia join the sides too. We already have Egypt on the other side. This one straight up and down the Red Sea, can it be done twice now that it has been done? Well, we'll see. I bet that they're going to get some Chinese artillery. China responded and said that if this continues, they will take them out themselves. And this is basically Russia saying this as he's basically introducing gear. Now, I'm going to go over some interesting stuff right now. We're going to take a sidebar onto an interesting little side topic for America because I'm going to add up some similarities here. So let's hear these people from Building 7. You know, this is when the World Trade Towers went down.
47-story skyscraper was not hit by a plane.
Although the official explanation is that fire brought down Building 7, over 1,200 architects and engineers have looked into the evidence and believe there is more to the story.
Bring justice to my son,
My uncle,
My nephew, my son,
and thousands of others who died on September 11th.
go to building what?
Getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they're going to be able to contain the fire. I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
My name is Luke Adowski. I'm a Brooklyn College student. Now, with all due respect, and I pardon the discretion, but this is a very important question. On a PBS documentary, Real Building America, you made an infamous quote saying, pull it. Now, you later released a press release saying that was the firefighters outside World Trade Center Building 7 on 9/11. It's two questions. If you meant to pull the firefighters out, why didn't you say evacuate the firefighters? And there's also FING reports and first responders that I know personally that firefighters were already out that building before you made that statement. So can you please clarify your statement?
The World Trade Center was brought down by a combination of events. The first one is the falling antenna. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
One of the keys to what happened on 9/11 is what caused Building 7 of the World Trade Center to collapse. Many of you are going to go, Building 7, what was that? That was a 47-story steel and glass office building that just totally collapsed down into its own foundation about 5:20 on the afternoon of 9/11. It was not hit by airplanes, didn't have any devastating fires in it. It just collapsed down after the building owner, Larry Silverstein, said, well, I told the fire department to pull it, and they pulled it, and we stood there and watched the building come down.
And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Well, industry slang, pulling it means controlled demolition. If Building 7 was brought down by controlled demolition, then why is it so preposterous to assume that perhaps the Trade Center towers were brought down by controlled demolition?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I think we all know the truth to this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there are certain military forces that have a history of blowing up buildings. Now, remember, Iran had their president in the building, and then we learned that the Mossad had built a building with explosives in it, waited maybe over a decade until the right people were in it, and then blew it up. It was, you could say it was ingenious, or you could say it was another kind of terrorism. Now, I'm going to point out some things. Now, according to Israel, these kids are lying. Nobody's starving to death. And of course, look at the beautiful homes they get to go home to. Now, people were like arguing, oh, there's no white phosphorus. Well, of course, all of our bombs are just extremely clean and healthy for you. And so, where are the hostages? And if they were in those buildings, they would be dead. I want to remind America, this was a population of 1.9 million people. We have now about 360,000 skeletons walking around. Even our own military forces, even friends of mine that went on humanitarian aid missions over there, were noticing razor wire and also people getting killed for showing up just to eat. These are war crimes against humanity. These are facts. The fact that we all have cell phones with video, the proof is out there. Stop lying, Benjamin Netanyahu. This is making Israel look very bad, and if you don't think that hate breeds hate, well, 2 billion Muslims are going to be knocking on your door here pretty soon. And that's just a super fact I want President Trump to understand. Just because the old people over 50 and 60 support Israel, all of our kids don't. And I'm meaning by the majority, 80% of the kids under 30 oppose this war, oppose the property grab. And those are where the kids are going to school. So do you think that this is going to help Israel, America, or destroy it? Because I think that by Israel having a bad war criminal leader like Benjamin Netanyahu, you're going to destroy every single cousin, every single family member that everybody has in Israel. Because Jesus told us, do unto others the way you want done to yourself, but above all, love. And this is the furthest thing from love that every Christian can see. So if you don't like the way these pictures look, well, fine. Do something about it. Now, I'm going to tell you when our president was poisoned because I saw it happening. It was when a Jewish Israeli spy shook my president's hand. And later I represented and saw that on that same exact area where they shook hands and his wife looked on with like an evil eye, I noticed my president's hand got bruised. I noticed his way of thinking was different. Could he have been manipulated from that moment on? Because from the Epstein debacle on, things have not been the same. So we had a mysterious absence. They wanted to point out his hand, and he was under the weather for a little while. But I believe it is when he shook somebody's hand. And as the train rolls in, the technology of North Korea, well, it's nothing to fear too much, Japan. So just understand this in America. As Kim Jong, little Kim's what I like to call him, is taking in his massive train into Russia, into China, to visit the parade, but this train has a top speed of 37 miles per hour. So keep that in mind, and this is him. He's basically looking like a kid at Disneyland, but he's got a lot of missiles at his disposal. And from Pyongyang to Beijing, Kim rolls into China in his armored fortress for the parade. And he's arrived there, and it's the 80th anniversary of the World War II victory, and they're all celebrating the defeat of Nazism, the defeat of Japan with Germany. Now those two countries are our allies, but I think our country has forgotten every ally. As Japan, South Korea stand out there alone, and so does Taiwan and the Philippines. So it's up to those countries to start arming themselves. And I want us to get into stuff like titanium manufacturing. Friends and I have talked in it. Titanium dioxide's everywhere. We need to get into manufacturing this for country. And these are just simple facts. This is a news flash in the last hour coming up to us from the IDF. And look at it. Israel reservists defy Netanyahu. We will not fight in this insane illegal war. And so we had 365 soldiers rebel, and they're getting sick of this war criminal. People in America don't understand that Benjamin Netanyahu is being investigated for war crimes in Israel by their own intelligence agency. However, that was held up when he exploded the building not long ago. Question is, who is really the architect of Gaza and their October fiasco? Well, I would say that it would be no other than Benjamin Netanyahu, so that he can stay in office. And as far as the younger people, I'm talking about everybody in their 30s and everybody that's communicated. Even talk to your friends in Israel. We actually know who in the world the criminal is. Next up right now, because we're back in the criminal, China announces that it's going to wipe Israel off the map. Now, I got a problem with that because I love Israel. They just have the wrong prime minister. We need a good rabbi in there, one of peace, one of love, one that can get along with his Arab and Christian neighbors. China's DF-26D reveals the next Guam killer. This has been introduced at the parade recently, and I want you to know, because it was translated, he's introduced this as the missile to take out the United States aircraft carriers. This particular missile has been enhanced specifically to destroy the Navy of the United States of America. So I want everybody out there that's in the Navy to Google the hell out of this and understand what they are talking about. This newly unveiled, the DF-26D, the latest variant of this long-range ballistic missile family, sparking intense global attention. First spotted during these parade rehearsals in Beijing today. The DF-26D is already being called the Guam killer and the United States aircraft carrier killer. This thing goes 500,000 plus kilometers. Unlike the earlier versions, and it can move. It can go high, low, even hypersonic glide technologies that make this extremely difficult to intercept and defeat. With the speed coming in, with its ability to strike both land and sea and moving and naval targets, the DF-26D could reshape strategic planning across the Pacific. So we're going to let you know that this is it. They've unveiled it. These are our enemies. We have enemies. The enemies are North Korea, China, Russia, India, BRICS, in an alliance against the United States because we have taken the side of Israel, and our petrodollar is collapsing. And the alliance that we have is one way, one-sided, and based off of racism, genocide, and a faith that lets no one in that wasn't born in. Now, when I say those facts, I want you to understand that in America, we have different standards and that we do not tolerate racism. So why are we funding racism and genocide today? But even though I mentioned that missile, that one that you heard me talking about, don't think for a second that's their top dog or tamale coming out of communist China. No, Xi Jinping has something else. China's new DF-100. And this is something for us to consider back here. And basically just coming up, it hasn't even been a month old. See, all of our technology is so old, it's from Reagan. Or even F-16s, I want you to think about it, they're 50 years old. But on August 12th, 2025, China state broadcaster CCTV released the rare operational footage of the very new DF-100 and also CJ-100 supersonic cruise missiles, showcasing its vertical cold launch system, transporter erector ejector launcher tail configuration, and rapid deployment capability designed for both conventional nuclear payloads. The DF-100 can strike high-value targets across the Indo-Pacific, including, and this is what it's targeted for, Japan, heads up, Guam, heads up, South China, Philippines, Vietnam, anybody that's on the side of America, heads up. Enemy is China, And they have two different variants. These are for basically the people at home, as they have the aircraft carrier. If they're doing this, why are we doing trade with this country? We need to kick out all 600,000 Chinese students today, President Trump, because this is what they're putting in their parade, and their only enemy is the United States of America and Israel. I want the people of the United States to know this. This is something that we deserve to know. And we have both sides coming in with technology. And while that's happening simultaneously, I want the EU, NATO, and the United States to be aware. We just moved in our B-2 flying nuclear triad in stealth into Norway just basically 2 days ago. So as of today, we have a joint strike nuclear and radioactive drills going on between China, Russia, and Belarus north of Poland that are going to be taking place. You asked for it, you got it. So, because the NATO and EU want to act like they're so big and so tough, China, North Korea, and Russia will be in Belarus, north. And if you ask me, they're really just setting up to demolish Europe. So NATO, act tough. And if you really want to do what's right, you need to get that Ursula von der Leyen girl, the head of the EU, and you need to throw her in a jail cell. You ought to do the same thing with Macron, the same thing with Merz, the same thing with your United Kingdom dilly-willy. It's time to elect radical men to understand what you're facing, because the time is now to admit your sin so that you can be forgiven. Russia's NATO neighbor, spooked by the oncoming war games in Belarus as Russia prepares for joint military exercises with Belarus, Poland, and has launched its largest ever war games, called the Iron Defender 25, to test the strength of NATO, EU, and the eastern flank. The drill, spanning land, sea, and cyberspace, is timed to coincide with the Russian-Belarus Zapad exercises, which NATO often masks as force buildups. This time you're being warned. Putin's basically telling you, Ursula, bring it, girl. I'm going to destroy your ass out in the field. I guarantee it. Just like the guy that used to sell suits. Yep, he's guaranteeing it. And I don't think it's going to be too hard for Vladdy P and the KGB, because Poland's building up. They're taking him serious. There's a new Ukrainian map out as of today. All deals are off with Trump. This war is not going to be stopped. As of in the last 24 hours, generals have exposed the truth in what's happening out there in Russia. Now, not just the border states. Russian blood has been spilt, and as such, all of the coast from Odessa, the entire coast, will be maintained by Vladimir Putin. The reason for this is that so that no trade goes, even through Greece, even through Turkey, to Israel, because a world war is on. This is World War III. It's Israel and the United States against Russia, China, North Korea. First tactic in which they're going to go after Europe and the EU. First piece that they moved out on the battlefield, that would be to Belarus, with the troops of North Korea, China, and enough nuclear power to send them all to kingdom come in 24 hours. These are the things in which they're producing and saying as Putin's army chief teases the new Ukrainian map. And Kiev panics. Kiev has been hit hard. They talk to Putin, saw how he negotiates. He responds with, I'm going to blow you up even harder. And so now a Ukrainian media report alleges a map that they've seen, and Russia's not denying it. I'm just going to let you know, Russia's going to get the whole enchilada, and they're in it to win it. And I think we know what they're in it to win it means. Now, what's going to solidify this? Well, we have the judge going against Trump, and all that made Modi go away, because India is going to receive Russian oil. So our own judges are destroying the system that Trump set up that could stabilize world economy. And the only thing our nation knows how to do to remain stable as we're sinking in a ship is war. So congratulations, Democrat judges. Just by being igmos, you've given Putin and BRICS the ammunition it needs to start World War III. And furthermore, you've given them the keys to win. So there it is. Russia's oil helped India save So much money, $12.6 billion in 3 years, cushioning the inflationary shocks. Now these discounts are sharply different. If America does not seek immediate ways in which we can get around SWIFT so that I can drill in various countries now that we're not doing stuff in Hungary and also Saudi Arabia, I cannot be held back by U.S. banks or SWIFT or anything such as that. So I'm relying on you, younger generation. It's up to the crypto geniuses and banking systems so that we can bind together in SWIFT. We can make that something of the past. I've heard XRP, I've heard Tether, Coinbase, all of these other things that are out there. Well, we'll produce the AI for them and all the electricity for them, but it's time for America to stand up and stand up to the plate. We've got to shed off genocide. We've got to shed off racism and also groups that don't let new members in, because we are not that exclusive and we embrace everything that is different. And I want you to know that, because we are in a big problem, and I'm letting you know the EU and NATO are done. Everything that they're doing is done because it was designed by George Soros. As far as even our media in America, it's just as ridiculous and just as spineless. These are all a bunch of woke tards. The NATO, EU gambit, they're done, they're finished. They were run by wokeism. As far as the Democrats in America, same exact situation. Now, what are we going to do? And at this new Chinese parade, I'm going to close with a little finale, because China was thinking they would spook the world with their 2 new missiles that they unleashed. But no, the award goes to Vladdy P and the KGB, because he has the fastest toys out on the planet still. And look at this. We're going to call this the world's deadliest race. Who controls Mach speed? Is it Xi Jinping? Well, let me tell you, with the way they build stuff in China, that stuff's probably going to fall apart as it's cruising through just the sky, because the only thing that China knows how to build is crap. Now, as far as the Pentagon and what we do, well, yeah, it's great, but our Tomahawks and everything else are a lot slower than what you want to realize. Putin's now got 10 missiles that are going over Mach 15. This is not good for the United States, especially since he's put glide vehicles and what's called MIRV heads on them. And this new thing that he's got a new thing here. The hypersonics arms race is heating up as Russia and China are developing new missiles, and Russia's come out with a Mach 27 missile, the AI-guided weapons with the U.S., and we are scrambling to keep up because we're probably a good decade behind. So stop letting the media lie to you. And it is not China that we have to be afraid of. The player out there that has taken the time to dissect all of our weaponry that we truly have to address like a threat, a respectful threat, is Vladimir Putin and the country of Russia. I want you to know that in the last 25 years, he has destroyed the USSR and communism single-handedly, and he is a Russian Orthodox Christian. And if we can concentrate on our similarities and be built on the rock and the foundation of Christ, we don't have to fight a war. And together, Mother Russia and Uncle Sam can join forces and save Europe and save the United States simultaneously. These opinions and these thoughts are my own, because every single action that I'm seeing is a total bunch of malarkey, and you know it. We need to come back again, apprehend the Panama Canal, free the people of Venezuela, and make our version and our little star on the map for OPEC, Venezuela, Suriname, and French Suriname. I want you to know that the people of Texas don't have a problem with the people of Venezuela. We love people from Venezuela because we all serve Jesus Christ. And that's the one thing about from North America to South America. There's no wars between us because there's no cultural differences. There's no social differences because we're built in El Nombre de Jesus. And that's a beautiful thing. So as long as we understand through love we can win, we've won. And we got to stop letting the devil in. They're stealing our money, and through the interest of stealing it, they're perpetuating terror, crimes, war, and the victims are just children. And we cannot be representing the wrong side when every other side that we've ever known that has been our ally has suddenly turned against us because we all notice what is right and wrong. In closing, there's big earthquake swarms that have been going off near Nevada. Super volcanoes sparking potential fears. US Geological Survey, 3.7, 3.2, but literally hundreds and several hundreds just over the last month, showing us that there's something that's raising. We could call this several different zones, the McDermott Fault Zone, all this, but this is an old ancient supervolcano. It's moved underneath the ground, probably 75 miles since its last major eruption that it had. But with all the activity going on there, there has got to be something up. And in my opinion, this could have been caused by just the fact that we've been taking a whole bunch of CMEs, coronal mass ejections, in cosmic rays. Now, that is affecting it, but we don't know what all the factors are. I'll let you remember that Catalina and everything from Long Beach, Catalina Island is actually growing every year because that plate is actually moving from to the north to the east. So we're having, basically these two plates converging into each other, creating an uplift. And obviously they're doing some movement right now, so you're seeing that as that plate is crunching up into the state of California and into the state of Nevada. That's a little geology for the people that don't know it. And so if you go to Point Vicente Palos Verdes, you will see actually stages where the beach has actually risen up out of the water. And so as far as people saying California is going to slide off, that's pretty far from the truth. And in geology, from Catalina on up into that area, that plate is pushing in rising Los Angeles. But at the same time, we could be expecting some major earthquakes around Los Angeles and the San Andreas Fault. There's been a lot of activity going on from San Francisco all the way down into this little area. And I think that it's all interrelated even with Kamchatka going off. So that magnitude 8.8 earthquake, then we had one, remember, that went off the southern tip of South America. And now we're having some pressure released up here in California and Nevada. So that's what's going on, but the earth is doing a lot of moving right now. And I'd like for us all to pray for the 1,400 people that have lost their lives and experienced tragedy in Afghanistan, and also for the 35 children that starve to death every day in Gaza. My name's Chris Sanders. Please like, share, and subscribe, and God bless each one of you. And try to tell your grandparents today that you love them. God bless you and amen.